Hi, thanks for joining us, everybody. Once again, Todd Flora, publisher of West Side Voice, with our 2024 candidate interviews. And right now, we're talking to West Hollywood Mayor John Erickson. That's Dr. John Erickson to you and me, who's running for re-election to the West Hollywood City Council. John, thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here with you.
Yeah. You guys had quite a meeting on Monday night.
I'm still in the Zoom. I just transferred over to come on over to talk to you.
Right. Well, listen, let's dive right into it. Tell people that may be watching that don't know you very well a bit about growing up in Wisconsin and what brought you to California and to West Hollywood.
Well, I'm a homegrown boy from Ripon, Wisconsin, which is actually the birthplace of the Republican Party, if you believe it or not. Population 7,000 some odd people. Grew up there my whole life, had a great childhood, and I grew up, as a young gay kid in a small town in Wisconsin. I went to college there and was an athlete and loved all things activism and organizing, and looked out here to Claremont, the Claremont colleges, to go to graduate school, where I got 2 masters in 2 years, and then I finished my PhD there just in 2019. And in between that time, I discovered the city of West Hollywood, and I became an intern actually at the city council offices, and then worked my way to be a deputy for council members Abby Land and John Heilman and all those amazing individuals. And then one day decided I too wanted to maybe run for local office because I love this city, West Hollywood, so much. It's a beacon for so many of us that come from different parts of the country that might not fit in, and it serves such a bigger purpose than itself. And I ran in 2020, and I was blessed at that moment to win. And here we are, 4 years later, doing the same thing again.
Yeah, well, you've already answered my second question, which is what inspired you to get involved in public service. So let's jump to tell us a bit about the last 4 years on the council and what you've accomplished, your accomplishments.
Well, the last 4 years on the council have been truly a lot of community building, a lot of working towards the future of the city, and reinvesting in, I think, the things that make West Hollywood great. I got elected at the height of COVID, so my first
That's
meeting
right.
really in person was not until a year or so into my term, but we still had to tackle really important issues like hero pay for grocery store workers, ensuring that workers had safe environments to return to. How did the city continue to make sure we were running a strong budget so that way we didn't have to lay off anyone, but then also not shying away from the important issues that I think COVID exacerbated. Looking at how much do we pay our workers? How do we invest in our streets, trees, and sidewalks? And ultimately, how do we continue to make West Hollywood an extremely progressive place in the ways that it's already known for? And so not only doing all those things, but investing in alternative modes of transportation, investing in our parks and our green space, ensuring that people stayed with their tenant protections and stayed housed during the pandemic, even as pandemic protections came to a close, was super important, especially as one of the few renters on the council myself. And then looking at the larger issues, I love public service, but I got involved in public service also because the wages are too low. And in 2015, the city council voted to not increase the minimum wage. And that was something in the Fight for 15 campaign that I was really troubled by. And now here in West Hollywood, we have one of the highest minimum wages in the country because we work to ensure that when workers are coming back from a pandemic, they can get paid a wage that is not a living wage, because let's be honest, that's $40 an hour in
Yeah.
places like California, but also including historic sick and leave protections that is accrued for our workers. And then doing the nuts and bolts of what local government is best at, responding to our constituents and our neighbors. And my approach to local government is you deserve an answer. And I've been working hard for 4 years to make sure that I'm a voice for our community and answering all and making sure I'm there for everyone.
Fantastic. Well, um, what are your biggest issues affecting the city now, and what do you see rising up in the next 4 years?
Well, right now, I think a lot of cities are looking at how do we still come back from COVID,
Mhm.
and how are we dealing with, aspects of budget deficits. But in West Hollywood, luckily we're one of the few, if not the only West Side cities with a budget surplus. And it's great to see my colleagues on the other side still admitting to that, because we are looking at how we invest in that. But then how do we take that money and invest directly back into our social service programs, building more affordable housing, and ensuring that the city's ready for the next 40 years. We're going to turn 40 here this November, right? 1 year soon to be older than me. And so I wanted the city as the mayor to look at how do we look at our investment policies for a rainy day fund should another emergency happen. So we've completely overhauled and increased the amount that we're putting away for a rainy day because we have this budget surplus. And then ultimately, how are we making sure that we're there for our businesses? And then I think the issue that we're all dealing with across the region is the issue of homelessness. It's homelessness, affordable housing, and public safety. I talk about those things every day, all day with residents, and they're unique to every city in the ways that we respond to it. But the issues themselves are dinner table issues that I think we all have to take serious. And so we've been investing in care, building more affordable housing, building interim housing for people that are out of homelessness and ready to go out onto their own. And then ultimately looking at how people don't fall into homelessness if they're behind on rent or if they're dealing with issues of sober or recovery issues, that these things are stuff that we all take very seriously here in West Hollywood.
Yeah, excellent. There's no shortage of agenda items, that's for sure.
Never.
Um, Speaking of one issue on a lot of people's minds, are crime and public safety overhyped, or are they legitimate concerns of residents?
Anybody that has any perception of not being safe in their neighborhoods is something that should be always taken seriously. I could talk to residents, and we do, about crime, part one crime, and crime being down in West
Mm,
Hollywood and having the same amount of sheriffs that we had many years ago back on the force and actually increasing the amount that we're spending on public safety. I mean, just a few meetings ago, we made one of the single largest public safety investments in the city's history, over $750,000 to bring about new enhanced technology services that can aid our sheriffs, who we contract with here in West
right.
Hollywood, to make sure people are safe. What we are dealing with is a regional issue that is exacerbated by people on the streets who may be suffering from behavioral and mental health issues that make people feel unsafe, or issues of crime like West Hollywood, where people come here and they try to harm our constituents. And that's something we have to take very seriously. And so our partnership with our sheriff's department, our support of first response, as well as an unarmed response, is critical. And anyone that tells me that they feel unsafe is something that we should take seriously. I don't want to fear monger because that makes people feel unsafe if they're not as directly connected as some people. But what we have to do is respect those opinions and work to make sure that they're addressed.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm going to go off the script for a second here. You used the term, would you say level one or part one crime? What is that?
Part one crimes are like really serious crimes. They're
Oh,
assaults, rape, some types of theft. Like when you think about cell phones, these things that we carry around in our pockets, because they're worth so much now, they meet a different level of classification when we are reporting. For a while, and we still have an issue of cell phone thefts at our nightclubs. West Hollywood's a very popular place to come
yeah.
because of crime rings that happen here. And these cell phones are worth so much now that they register at a different level. So when it looked like part one crimes are up, it's because people were stealing cell phones. And so how did we try to fix that? Working and reinvesting in our entertainment policing district here in West Hollywood to patrol the streets, to bring back those sergeants and those deputies to be out there, cameras to making sure people are safe, and working with our bouncers and our nightclubs and our restaurants all along our historic Rainbow District to make sure that we're doing all that we can to address these issues.
Yeah, okay. I figured contextually part one must meant high levels, but I just wanted the viewers to understand that. So turning to housing, what, if anything, have you found to be an antidote to NIMBYism?
Well, we have to build housing. I mean, I think everyone who sits in their apartments in West Hollywood, which has a very strong rent stabilization ordinance, as well
Yeah.
as is one of the few cities in California with some of the strongest tenant protection ordinances on the books, knows that landlords don't reinvest in the structures that they live in. That's because they've owned them for quite some time, and state law has taken away a lot of local control for what cities are allowed to do in terms of rents, which is something we're trying to do if we can pass some propositions here this fall. The Justice for Renters Act being one of them. But ultimately, to combat any form of anti-housing agendas, is we have to make sure that we're building housing and meeting our regional needs. Because while any type of development can oftentimes cause some stress for people, I think most of us agree that we need to build housing. I mean, in West Hollywood, our regional needs assessments for housing, our RENA numbers, is 3,995 units by 2030, right? We're
Yeah.
nowhere on track for that because our entitlements process here in the city of West Hollywood can take over a year to build anything. That's way too long. And
Yeah.
when you think about the amount then that it costs to build housing, you look at developers and other people that would want to build, and the cost is so high that sometimes they might not want to do it, so they sit on vacant lots. So we need to make sure that we're not only making it easier to build affordable housing and housing at all levels, because we need to make sure that people have a place to live. West Hollywood is a great place to come and be. I'm a little biased if you ask me myself, but this is a regional problem. Every city is trying to understand how they can build more housing. And the answer shouldn't be no, we can't. It should be yes, and how. And ultimately, that's where we need to have strong people in the council who aren't trying to build, I think, fictitious walls around our city or trying to cause more and more burdensome fees to people that want to build 100% affordable housing projects.
Yeah,
But
seriously.
how do we work to build housing with our community? And West Hollywood has a long track record of doing that.
Yeah, very good. I'm going to alter my next question a little bit about Airbnb and services like that, because I know you guys have taken strong action to try to cut down on
And
illegal
I've authored a
Airbnbs.
lot of those items.
Yeah, and kudos to you for that. But here's my question. How do we make sure those things are enforced with city staff sizes? At least in my city, who was not running a budget surplus, city staff sizes just don't seem to be large enough at the city attorney's offices to be enforcing these things. Can anything be done so that there's some real teeth in these Airbnb restrictions?
So it actually comes down to actually our code enforcement personnel.
Ah,
So we have established a proactive code enforcement team here in West Hollywood after um, uh, refiguring out how we can add more protections against Airbnb. One of the big issues we were facing was that landlords were kicking out rent stabilized people from their units and then not putting them back on the market. So how do you create a registry? How do you make sure those are going back on the market? And they were renting them out to Airbnb people illegally. So a proactive code enforcement team that we have in West Hollywood has cracked down on these illegal units very quickly. And we've seen the numbers drastically come down. I think couple of months ago, we had one of our latest updates. Other cities are actually looking into how they can take what we have done and do it themselves because it starts down there. If the Airbnb gets up to the city attorney level, that means you're in litigation, and that means you're probably collecting against some of
oh,
these landlords who are illegally doing this, and then they're going to pay up. I won't ever break closed session rules, but let me tell you that there are a number of people here in West Hollywood that are trying to skirt the system, and they've been proven to not get away with it, and they won't get away with it because we need those rent stabilized units. We need those housing units to be for people. And we have an amazing hotel industry, and we have an amazing community where people can come stay if they want and not use Airbnb.
yeah. That's great. Well, I'm glad things are working out better there in West Hollywood. I guess code enforcement is the key watchword there.
Yeah.
A couple of fun questions, and then we'll wrap it up. You've been a very tight on message interview. Thank you.
I've done this a couple of times.
What are you watching these days?
So I just had COVID, so that was fun,
Oh
as many
no.
people know. But so I've been rewatching just a bunch of documentaries because I'm a big old nerd. I've been reading a lot. I've been journaling. I'm a big comic book nerd reader, so
Oh,
I've
are
been
you?
reading a lot of my comic books from my local store, Mega City One, down here on Melrose. And frankly, I've just been taking this time to rest a little bit. But watching a lot of stuff. I seem to watch. Everything, and then I don't have anything to watch. So I've been
Yeah.
rewatching things. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's an answer. It's a good answer. Okay. As we all know, the 2028 Summer Games are coming here to LA. Money is no object. What are you going to buy tickets for?
I would buy tickets for beach volleyball and indoor volleyball because I was a volleyball player and I think
Was that your
it's
sport?
great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm a volleyball player. It's so much fun. Aquatic swimming. I was able to see aquatic swimming in Paris when I was there for those games, and that was amazing. And meeting some of those team members who live on the west side was amazing. And then honestly, like just the closing ceremonies and the opening ceremonies are such, chances of a lifetime to go see. And some of those tickets are a little expensive, but
Yeah, yeah.
those are the things that I think I would pay money to go see.
Yeah, I don't know how we're gonna compete with Paris for the opening ceremonies, the way they used the city and not just an arena, you know?
Maybe we'll
Um,
all dance on the 405.
well, well, very good. Well, there have been too many people closing too many freeways lately, whether their cause is just or not. Let's keep those freeways open. But the last word really belongs to you. And we've got actually we've got plenty of time. So what are some of the issues you don't think we didn't get to several issues that you want to address in this interview? And then after that, make your closing argument to the people of West Hollywood.
Well, in West Hollywood, we're coming up on a time of we're turning 40. So what does the next 40 years look like? There's a new generation for new leadership here in West Hollywood. We've been lucky enough to be led by some incredible leaders who I've had a great opportunity to learn from and know. And we've been able to create a great community, but that doesn't mean that we're not without our issues or problems. The best thing about West Hollywood is that you can see, or any other type of local government in many ways, is that you see me walking down the street and you can stop me and talk to me. I think it's the accessibility of local government officials like here in West Hollywood that make us the best to really try to get stuff done that benefits our neighbors, even if we might not agree, right? And I think that's the best part of the thing I always take with me from being a person from a small town in Wisconsin. We knew who our mayor was, we knew who our town council people were, because at the end of the day, we were a community, thick and thin, through all and all. And although sometimes we can hate each other's guts, figuratively, I think at the end of the day, West Hollywood is such a great city. It's because we're meant to be together, and we are formed around issues that are core to who we are: LGBTQ issues, renter issues, diversity, progressive, a strong business community, and working towards the future. And that's some of the reasons why I love this city so much. But it's also a reason why during COVID, when someone asked me and emailed us saying that City Hall wasn't open and they couldn't get in touch with any of us, I said, well, how about I just set up a card table in Plummer Park, one of our
And
incredible parks here in West Hollywood, and you can come talk to me,
you're
right?
still
And they
doing it,
said,
right? You're
and
still
I've
doing
been
it.
doing it for 38 months. I
Yeah.
once a month on a Saturday. Um, Called Saturdays in the Park with John. I didn't want to be sued by the Sondheim estate for Sundays in the Park with George, of course, but you know, um, and I set up a card table and it started small where people were like, who is this guy? And now it's like a community event. I see people, they come talk to me. I have office hours because it's important that not only us as local electeds are available, but the mayor of a city is also there for the residents at any time. You can email me and yell at me, and I can say, well, come talk to me on Saturday. I'm not going to turn you away, right? I'm happy to
Right.
have these conversations, right? Because they're needed. And in a time like we have now in our world where it's a little it's a little fun to say the least, right? We need to get back to the basics. It's the basics of the streets, trees, and sidewalks. It's making sure that our residents feel safe in their homes. And it's making sure that we're doing all that we can to push the city forward. How do we make sure we're still an LGBTQ beacon? How do we make sure we're taking care of our brothers and sisters that are on the streets that are suffering from addiction, mental health, behavioral health issues, that they might have fallen behind on a rent paycheck, or they're right, just like one of us. I mean, most individuals don't even have enough saved for an emergency these days because the pay is too low. So how do we protect minimum wage ordinances and fight for more? And I think these are all the things that I've really tried to focus not only who I am on, but I think advocate for in larger ways. And so, my plea and case to the West Hollywood voters is when I raised my hand to take that oath in December of 20, I swore I'd work every single day to make sure that you had someone at City Hall you could email and that you could talk to one way or another, and that I'd fight for you. And I believe I've upheld that oath, and I've worked hard to make sure that people know that I'm an effective leader and an effective council member and mayor who gets stuff done and wants you to be a part of the journey together. And I'm really looking forward to and hopeful for, I hope, the next 4 years, and I'm going to work like hell to make sure that happens.
Well, there you heard it, folks. He's John Erickson. He is the mayor of West Hollywood, running for re-election to the West Hollywood City Council, and we wish him the best of luck. Thank you so much, John.
Thanks, Todd.